días a todos. Si nos vamos sentando, por favor. Okay, good. Can you hear me well? Yes, I guess so. So, good morning, everyone. Buenos días a todos. Vamos a cambiar al inglés, como sabéis. My name is Francisco Alvarez, or Paco, and I'm the Public Policy Attaché here at the British Embassy in Madrid. And I'm in charge of transport. So thank you very much for being here today, and especially our colleagues from the UK. As you may have seen, this is a hybrid event. So for the people online, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And another thing about security that I just want to mention before we start the event, we're not expecting any fire drill today. So if we hear an alarm, please follow instructions or just follow me and go here to the right where the exit is. Without any further ado, I'm just going to introduce His Majesty's Ambassador, Sir Alex Ellis.
Muchísimas gracias y buenos días a todos. Bienvenidos todos a la Casa Británica en este planta tan alta. Ojo sobre si hubiera de verdad un alarme, no es fácil, tienen que bajar unos 41 plantas muy rápidamente, que se hace con tacones, es muy difícil, pero bueno. Yo voy a hablar en inglés, que es mejor, ¿sí? Because no one will understand me in Spanish. Bueno, entonces voy a cambiar para inglés, pero it's just a pleasure to have you here. It's one of the joys of being an ambassador is you get to learn about things. You have to be somebody who's curious, and I'm very curious about SAF, about sustainable air fuel, because I think that if you think what are the greatest challenges the world will face in the next generation, one of the 3 or 4 main ones for any developed European economy is how do you manage the transition towards a more sustainable future. And that is an enormous challenge. It's always worth remembering. Why are we doing this? Because the consequences of not doing it are very dramatic. And actually they affect Spain enormously. I remember 30 years ago meeting a climate expert in Portugal who showed me the map of what they thought would probably happen to temperatures around the world. And one of the areas most affected is the Mediterranean basin. And that is true. That has proved to be the case. And we see the consequences of that, obviously, with the Dana. But it has very profound effects. So there's good news and bad news. I'll start with the good news. Good news? Yeah? It's better to start with the good news. To face that challenge, we've actually made quite a lot of progress. In the UK, we've cut our greenhouse gas emissions by over 50%. Since on a 1990 base. That's quite a big fall, actually. Spain, what's the drop in Spain? I can't remember. A bit less than that, but on the way. The trouble is, our total emissions, I think, from UK and Spain combined, that's about 1.5% of the world's emissions of greenhouse gases. You can't do this one on your own, I'm afraid. But we've done quite a lot, and our Prime Minister in the UK, he set a new target for 81% cut in greenhouse gas emissions by 2035. But we've done the easy part. The bad news is now. This is the hard bit. I remember always the climate scientists saying the hardest bit of the transition is actually the kind of the third quarter of the match. By the way, when many matches are won and lost, is in the third quarter, and it's true in this one. And that means doing things which aren't yet commercially viable and advancing them, and this is one of the areas. Now, air transport accounts for what percentage of global emissions now? It's growing, I think, as we reduce emissions elsewhere. And so we've got to do this. And I think there are sort of 3 ways in which we do it. I mean, first of all, I should say air transport is a big part of the Spanish and UK economy. It's about the same, about 4% of GDP, about 1.5 million jobs in the UK, about a million, just under a million in Spain. It's a big part of our economy. And part of that is the connection between the two countries. As you all know, more flights between the UK and Spain than any other two countries in the world. We have an enormous flow of human beings between UK and Spain. And that's a great thing. And we as humans, we like to move. We don't like staying still. We love moving. Look at what happened to tourism after the end of COVID. It's incredible. The growth, just the desire of people to move is, and I think that's going to continue. Human beings like moving. Given the chance to move, they move. They like coming to Spain in particular, which is very good. So how are we going to deal with emissions from the air transport sector? And part of that is SAF. It's gotta have to be. The good and the bad is we don't have a choice. We're going to have to do this. So how do you do this in an intelligent way? And that's why it's great to have the report from the Spanish College of Aeronautical Engineers, COIA. A lot of vowels in that. COIA. It's fantastic to have that report because I think there are sort of really three ways in which you can do this. You can do it through obligation, mandates. You can do it through subsidy. And you can also do it through the development and sharing of knowledge. And the UK and Spain are two centers of knowledge. But in the end, governments, even colegios de ingenieros aeronáuticos, we can do so many things, but in the end, private capital is what will do this, yeah? The companies here. And so you have to create the marco within which companies can make decisions which lead to the transformation. One of the things I'm most proud of working on was the original plans 20 years ago in the European Union for the energy transition. It was probably my main job for about 3 years. And there you were creating the marco, the framework, and then the capital moved to where it needed to go to, and we have to do the same with SAF. But we do that in part by sharing knowledge, and I think the UK and Spain are two centers of knowledge, two countries with great ambition for how we're going to manage the energy transition. And so that is our job. Paco, gracias. And all the team here, the excellent team here in the embassy in Madrid and in Spain, is to help share that knowledge and help that transition. But no country can do this alone. Maybe China, United States, maybe. No other country can do it alone. We are not big enough. We have to do this together. So I'm delighted we're having this event. The event is really just a way of sharing knowledge and bringing people together for this network, this system, which will make the energy transformation turn from fine words or not so fine words from the British ambassador into actual reality. So I hope you have a great day. I'm delighted that you've produced this work. I thank you so much for doing so. And I'm delighted that you've all come here today. Muchísimas gracias y bueno, que avancen, ¿no? Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Alex. And now I'm going to hand over to the producers of the report. So first of all, I'm going to introduce the Vice Dean, Vicedecano Armando Díaz Bruguera.
Yes, Ambassador, ladies, gentlemen, good morning. I'm very glad to be here today and say a few words, only a few words, a couple of minutes, on behalf of the Spanish College of Aeronautical Engineers. As the Vice Dean of the college, I would like to say that it's a pleasure and a privilege for us to be here at the British Embassy, taking part with all of you in this important and, I hope, fruitful meeting. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your hospitality. As everybody here knows, a memorandum of understanding has been signed between the UK and Spain in order to promote the production and use of sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. Within this context, the establishment of at least an annual meeting is essential to achieve the objectives included in the memorandum. In this way, and prior to this meeting, and as a starting point for this, the Spanish College of Aeronautical Engineers wrote a report commissioned by the British Embassy about the collaboration between our countries on SAF matters. Now, Mr. Regidor, our Sustainability Committee coordinator and author of the study, is going to provide us with a presentation about the advancing collaboration between the UK and Spain on SAF production and regulation. Juanjo, the floor is yours.
Sí. Aquí, para pasar.
Esos dos.
Esos dos. Y si necesitas agua, te he puesto aquí.
Ah, vale. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank British Ambassador Sir Alex Ellis and the British Embassy team for the opportunity to collaborate on the preparation of this report and the organization of this event for its presentation, and to foster the collaboration between Spain and United Kingdom for SAF development. Okay, the problems of the direct. Okay, Spain and the United Kingdom have committed to achieving net zero CO2 emissions by 2050, a goal established at the 41st ICAO Assembly in 2022. In 2023, they agreed on a 5% reduction in international aviation emissions by 2030, primarily through sustainable aviation fuels, SAFs. This led to a memorandum of understanding in July 2023 to develop the SAF industry and foster collaboration. This agreement proposes different areas of cooperation through annual meetings, joint promotion, knowledge exchange, strengthening partnerships, collaboration with sector companies, and sustainability. The objective of this report is to present the agreement between Spain and the United Kingdom for the promotion of SAF production, leveraging the synergies between both countries. This report has been prepared by directly consulting companies working in various parts of the SAF production cycle, ensuring that policies are aligned with industry needs. We have gathered opinions on policies that could assist in the indicated areas of cooperation. We would like to thank the collaboration of all of them, answering the main questions that support this report. We would like to thank to the General Direction of Civil Aviation, depending of Spanish Ministry of Transport and Sustainable Mobility, that reviewed the report together with the British Embassy team. Engaging major companies has highlighted the need for better communication and awareness of the MO. The SAF industry is highly technological and strategic, requiring immediate actions to meet market and environmental expectations. Governments must stimulate collaboration across various sectors, including all SAF's value chain and finance. This involves creating incentives for capital reallocation and promoting SAF production and use. The coordination between EU and UK continues after Brexit, but the lack of comprehensive legislation covering the SAF pathway until 2030 and 2050 creates uncertainty affecting investment decisions. To mitigate risks, there is a call for assistance of all industry involved in the SAF's value chains, from research up to certification. Joint developments require expanded access to various initiatives and assistance. Most of the current SAF production technologies are in the research and demonstration phase, needing substantial investments. Concerns about fraud and lipid-based raw materials have led to the European Commission to tighten measures. Certification bodies play a crucial role in ensuring sustainability and traceability throughout all the value chains. SAF prices vary among technologies and may require varied administrative treatments for consumption, accounting, traceability, and control. Airlines are concerned about emissions offsetting balances with foreign companies. Equal treatment for SAF from outside the EU or the UK is desired. Advancing the approval of sustainable aviation blends up to 100% and access to different fuels for testing is necessary. The SAF industry system relies on credibility and combating fraud, supported by sustainability certification schemes. Overlay complex control structures could hinder operational capacity and deter investments. In the United Kingdom, the strategic foundations for the sustainable aviation sector were set out in the 2022 documents, Jet Zero Strategy and Flight Path to the Future. These documents established the goal of emissions neutrality by 2050, as agreed upon at the ICAO Assembly. A government consultation in 2023 gathered industry views on obligations, certifications, and compliance. The UK government has supported the SAF industry since then with significant investment, close to £600 million for the Advanced Fuel Fund for fuel testing and establishing a SAF clearinghouse and investment with breakthrough energy catalysts. The initial commitment includes constructing at least 5 commercial scale plants by 2025. Proposed changes to the renewable transport fuel obligation aim to address multiple incentives and ensure fair treatment for fuels produced and imported from outside the UK and EU. In Spain, as a member of the European Union, much of its modern legislation originates from European policy programs. In July 2015, key Spanish agencies signed a collaboration agreement to promote the Spanish initiative for the production and consumption of biojet fuel for aviation. This agreement aimed to enhance energy efficiency, use renewable energy sources, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the aviation sector. In 2019, Spain launched regulatory proposals to promote SAF, including the Spanish Climate Change Law and the Integrated National Energy and Climate Plan for the 20th decade. These regulations aim to establish a 2% SAF supply by 2025 under the Refuel EU Aviation Initiative. As an EU member, Spain adheres to the Refuel EU Aviation Regulation, which seeks to boost SAF supply and demand. At the national level in Spain, the Climate Change and Energy Transition Law emphasizes advancing bioenergy and SAF power to liquid. The decarbonization potential of each type of SAF is determined by a comprehensive life cycle analysis, accounting for emissions of CO2 and other pollutants. The source of raw materials and the land use impact are crucial. HIFA fuels would require significant land if scaled up. Gasification fuels from waste products need less than land initially, but large-scale production would still require dedicated feedstocks. Water usage varies by technology, with PTL fuels being more efficient compared to others. Regulations like refuel aviation are stricter than RED II and US regulations, limiting certain feedstocks. Collaboration between the UK and Spain can improve logistical networks, enhancing efficiency. Fraud prevention is crucial, with the European Commission tightening measures. Certification bodies ensure sustainability and traceability, supporting other SAF production routes without feedstock restriction that is essential for commercial deployment. Producers are open to considering crop-based feedstocks if sustainability is warranted. There is concern about the development of PTL technology and its availability on significant scale. Ensuring the correlation between feedstocks and greenhouse gas savings is also a priority. The approved processes for SAF productions have expanded significantly in recent years, with new technologies aiming to access diverse feedstocks and increase production capacity. Currently, biofuel produced through the HIFA process is expected to dominate in the short term. The next most promising process is alcohol to jet, which uses a broader range of sustainable sourced raw materials and includes carbon capture from carbon-intensive industry. Other notable initiatives include co-processing, which partially decarbonize aviation fuels by refining petroleum with organic materials, and hydroprocessing, which reduces aromatic compounds and sulfur in conventional kerosene, resulting in fewer condensation trails. The global need for SAF is huge. Despite the increase in SAF production in 2022, this still represents less than 0.2% of the total fuel consumed by commercial aviation, emphasizing the challenge of scaling up SAF production to meet future demands. A key aspect in the success of each SAF production pathway is the production cost. The production cost of SAF, compared to fossil-based kerosene, depends on oil prices, but serves as a reference for future developments. Currently, blends up to 50% are fully certified, so there is not a limitation in the medium term. The aviation industry continues to demonstrate that both in-service designs and new models of engines and aircraft under development are compatible with 100% sustainable fuels. It's important to highlight the main projects in both countries. The UK's first commercial scale waste-to-jet fuel project is a collaboration between Velocys, British Airways, and Shell, with production expected to start in 2025. Nova Pangaea Technologies also contributing to SAF production with its Nova One plant in Teesside. Lancatec's Dragon project in Port Talbot will transform ethanol into SAF using innovative gas fermentation technology. In October 2011, Spain launched its first SAF initiative. The Ministries of Transport, Environment and Industry collaborated with public institutions and private sector to develop a project for producing aviation biofuels to commercial aircraft use. This project involved 13 airlines and energy companies. In August 2020, Repsol produced the first batch of aviation biofuel in Spain at its Puerto Llano industrial complex. Repsol's new plant in Cartagena opened in late 2023, will focus on SAF production. Another plant in Bilbao will produce synthetic SAF from 2025, using CO2 capture with green hydrogen. Additionally, Cepsa is constructing a new facility in Palos de la Frontera set to start in 2026 to produce renewable diesel and SAF. Spain will need around 120,000 tons to meet the 2% obligation of refuel EU aviation. The new Repsol plant in Cartagena will cover all SAF demand in the Iberian Peninsula until the European mandate increases to 3%. Repsol is investing continuously to increase SAF production with new units and new technologies. BP is expanding SAF production at the Castellón refinery and has launched the High-Val project, investing 2 billion euros to produce green hydrogen and SAF. Challenges to increase SAF production include technological development, operating costs, raw materials availability, regulatory obstacles, and market adoption. A clear and stable regulatory framework, along with assistance and incentives, is needed to minimize investment risks. Aviation was included in the EU emissions trading scheme in 2008, covering emissions from flights within the European Economic Area that now includes UK. The scope has evolved to facilitate global market instruments like CORSIA, adopted by ICAO in 2016, and the Directive 2030-958 aims to reduce emissions by 55% by 2030. By 2030, gradually eliminating free emissions allowances and increasing auctioned allowances. However, there is no clear system for verifying the origin of SAF. The refuel EU aviation also includes fuel suppliers. EU regulations are more stringent than CORSIA, requiring higher greenhouse gas emission reductions. In 2023, the European Commission proposed Count Emissions EU to ensure reliable greenhouse emissions data for transport services. Regarding the certification systems, ISO 22095 defines a framework for chain of custody, enhancing transparency and reliability of claims about materials or products. It supports the design, implementation, and management of chains of custody, but does not apply to services as final products. The Roundtable and Sustainable Biomaterials RSB book and claim system is a certification system that controls how materials and products progress along the supply chain. Their attributes, including sustainability benefits, are tracked, documented, and verified through the chain of custody. There are two main approaches to promoting the introduction of SAF in commercial aviation, focusing on developing production capacity. In Europe, the strategy involves mandatory mandates for airlines, such as Refuel EU, to create demand that generates supply. In contrast, the US strategy relies mainly on economically incentivizing companies involved in SAF production. There are internal mandates in countries like France, Sweden, Norway, US, Japan, or UK for SAF percentage consumption. The UK mandate requires at least 10% of aviation fuel to be produced from sustainable sources by 2030, representing 1.2 million tons of fuel. The UK policy employs a system of tradable certificates with additional certificates for fuels reducing emissions by more than 70%. compared to fossil fuels. The policy also includes a buyback mechanism to prevent price wars in case of supply shortages. Governments should support and encourage collaboration between industries to increase SAF production. This requires creating incentives for capital reallocation and SAF production and usage worldwide. SAF can be produced through various feedstocks and processes, and governments should prioritize pathways with minimal environmental impact. The SAF market is rapidly developing with numerous production and supply pathways requiring institutional support. UK has allocated close to £250 million to promote SAF industry, aiming to have at least 5 SAF plants under construction by 2025 and cover 10% of fuel needs with SAF by 2030, promoting SAF industry, ICAO studies, innovative research, production, and SAF flight test. IAG has invested in Nova Pangea Technologies to develop the Nova 1 production plant expected to produce biofuel by 2025. Lansatec received £25 million for its Dragon project in Wales, contributing to the UK's net zero emissions goal. In Spain, actions are aligned with the European Green Deal, directing significant investment towards climate, energy, and transport policies. For SAF producers, research focuses on identifying new lipid wastes, developing pre-treatment technologies, and optimizing production processes. Government play a crucial role in developing supply chains and adopting favorable legislative frameworks. Establishing subsidies or incentives for less mature SAF production technologies is recommended to minimize investment risks and support the transition to sustainable aviation. There is a significant interest in new pathways to achieve immediate 100% SAF solutions, including those based on sustainable aromatic fractions, as they would not require a separate SAF infrastructure like non-direct SAF types. It's essential to mature and bring to market key enabling technologies for PTL solutions, such as carbon capture and electrolyzer technologies. A crucial phase for the industry involves engine manufacturers using new SAF fuels to assess their impacts on designs and determine necessary adaptations. Legislative development of the SAF production and consumption framework can be delayed and complex, with disparities in criteria and support policies across regions. Achieving international homogeneity is desirable. One of the greatest challenges is ensuring the availability of SAF in sufficient quantities and economical viable terms. United Kingdom and Spain signed other agreements with different countries with the same aim of the MoU. Despite these efforts, consultations with key companies revealed that half were unaware of the UK-Spain agreement. Future agreements should proactively engage stakeholders to ensure awareness and participation. A coordinated approach is needed, with greater awareness of each country's activities and initiatives to foster collaboration. International agreements establishing common criteria and standards are crucial for the global market. There is concern about the final development of the UK-EU agreement and the continuity of long-term projects like clean aviation. Removing barriers to foreign company participation in projects is essential. To support SAF development and production, it is crucial to collaborate closely, understanding the MoU and establishing a joint work plan with specialized groups, encouraging business alliance for expertise in the SAF life cycle, provide legal certainty, addressing legal voids and reducing legislative complexity with a serious look at consistency between international laws. Support investment, minimizing investment risks with aid packages. Promote PTL SAF, accelerating the technology development with incentives. Ensure certification and combat fraud. Maintaining industry credibility with robust fraud prevention system. And establishing common criteria within the industry and between countries. These recommendations aim to foster collaboration, provide legal certainty, support investment, promote PTL technology, and ensure robust certification systems for the SAF industry. Thank you for your attention and commitment to this important cause. Questions?
Yes, so thank you very much, Juanjo. And right now, if you have any questions specifically on the report, any comments from the audience, but also we would like to take this opportunity to hear from you, since you are the experts and working on it, if you have any overall comment on how we could collaborate between Spain and the UK, or any initiatives that you would like to highlight that you're working at the moment. So, I'll leave it to you to coordinate. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you have any questions.
Hello. Yeah, thank you very much. Dan Hood from the UK Department for Transport, working on SAF policy. Thank you for that report. Really, really interesting to see. I think one thing in the future for trying to get to as net zero as possible will be one of your recommendations, which is the development of PTL technology. And PTL uses a lot of electricity, which is an issue there. And so I think one workaround in the future will be to have a decarbonised grid in order to try and make the development of that as sustainable as possible. Do you see any other challenges around developing PTL and potential ways around that?
Well, in our report we have gathered information about gathered from the main companies, and we didn't create more information that they have give us. So I cannot give you more information than the information that is in the report.
Hello, good morning. I'm Isabel Büschel from the European Federation for Transport and Environment. Mm-hmm. So thank you for this insight, really very interesting. We would be interested in getting to know a bit more in detail the framework that Spain is shaping to attract investment into SAF production, especially synthetic SAF production. So it was mentioned that next generation recovery funds are going into this. Could you please elaborate? Is there any more, are there any more normative instruments in elaboration to foster this predictable framework and legal certainty, and also related to fraud prevention of unsustainable SAFs? Thank you.
Well, we don't have any more information that the information that we have presented. Perhaps the people from the Ministry of Spain can answer better that questions. Fernando, I don't know if you could have more information. Sorry for involving you.
Is the next generation funding, but it's managed by the Innovation Ministry. So they are putting just like a bunch of funding here towards sustainable aviation fuels projects in that sense. And what I'm not sure, and I don't think that they have particularly, they are supporting particularly projects in synthetic stuff. That's something, but they are, that's the funding in terms of funding tools, that is the funding that we have. I don't know, Fernando, if you want to add something in terms of normative, what was presented was correct and was the detail we have.
Hello? Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. My name is Paulina Webb. I represent the UK Civil Aviation Authority. We did a lot of work on the 100% SAF, in terms of permit to fly and enabling that safety of the HAF SPK type pathway. I have noted the level of next steps when you mentioned was related to the PTL promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, makes me wonder from the regulation perspective, and I'm covering just a question related to safety, although we're doing some work related to sustainability. In terms of promotion, sort of areas of potential work, do you see any areas where we as a regulator can help in promotion of the PTL pathway, for example? Anything that took that thoughts from conception into some sort of level of thinking involving that sort of aspect of the safety of the potential PTL flights, for example? Thank you.
Well, in our report we have gathered information about the claims of the different companies, from producers to airlines, and there is a lot of concern about the development of the laws or mandates from the next step of the cycle from 2030 to 2050, and there is a lot of doubts about what is going to happen. From the side of the investments from PTL, is the companies are claiming for incentives, and they want to know what kind of advantages could have the people from outside of the EU and UK to sell and use SAF. There is also a problem with the SAF, the SAF origin of the raw materials that use for SAF productions. I think there are a lot of things that have to be developed and controlled just to have a clear environment of a clear market for airlines.
Yes, thank you. Ismael Aznar from PwC. We have recently carried out a project together with Iberia, Vueling, CEPSA, now Moeve, and Biocirc, where we have identified some potential measures that could foster SAF development in Spain, including regulatory measures, incentives, and so on. And there is one which I think it's particularly, I mean, to me it's a very good opportunity to use in a wise way the incomes from the auctions of the UTS. You mentioned that we are moving from free allocation to 100% auctioning. So the effort that the aviation sector will have to do to mitigate climate change will be higher, but that is creating some incomes for the government, which could be used to fund
to promote
SAF projects, right? So to create incentives for SAF projects. So I wanted to hear your opinion, maybe also the ministry's views on using the incomes from auctions, from CO2 allowances to fund SAF projects. We have estimated that around 300 million euros could be generated through the auctions only from aviation allowances in Spain, which is a relevant amount of money which could be used for this purpose. Thank you.
Yes, I am going to say what is in our report. In our report, we are gathering all the opinions and claims of the industry, and they claim for more incentives to promote SAF productions, so, mainly SAF production and research on new pathways to produce SAF. So any kind of source of money from the government will be welcome.
Only to point out also that currently the revenues from the auctions are they are already earmarked. They have to be used for climate change purposes. But currently the incomes from auctioning aviation allowances are used for different purposes to support other sectors and not the aviation sector. So I think it's something we have to collectively think about and try to, promote this kind of measures.
I don't know if from the ministry.
Yes, well, I think this is something that we are analyzing, and we know. Hello? So it's something that is being analyzed, and it's a discussion, and we have had those discussions, and we are aware of the excellent report and that you did. I think the ministry was present in that, in the launch and everything. So it's something we are seeing. For example, last week we were in a meeting in Brussels. They are also seeing what kind of tools can be put into place and how also the private sector can access them better. Because we have the European Innovation Fund that they are financing some SAF projects. There was also a meeting for a network specifically for preparing a pipeline of projects, supporting the preparation of a pipeline of projects for SAFs. So those discussions are ongoing. And of course, we are aware of these opportunities, but it's not in our hands. It's not only something that we can decide. There's a bunch of ministries involved, but we are studying or seeing or exploring the opportunities in that way.
Sorry, I don't have a microphone. Is there any other question before we move on to the... Sorry, move into the next section? I mean, we'll have more opportunities for questions and engagement, but if there's nothing at the moment, Juanjo?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, again, thank you al Colegio Oficial de Ingenieros Aeronáuticos for the report and for working with us. So we're moving on into the next session, and we're going to be hearing now from some organizations that to learn what they're doing, what initiatives they're working on at the moment. So I'm going to hand over to Margarita Gregorio, President of the Spanish Alliance for Sustainable Air Transport. Margarita.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to the British Embassy for inviting the Spanish Embassy for the sustainability on air transport to this interesting event. I'm going to give you a brief overview on the Alliance. It works. Okay. I'm going to start by just giving you some facts. Is there the... Okay, here we are. It is clear the importance, the economic and social importance of air transport. More than 80% of our international tourists visit Spain by air every year. And tourism accounted for 12.8% of Spain's GDP in 2023. So, and this is increasing year by year. Aviation accounts for around 3% of global CO2 emissions, and it's one of the most difficult sectors to decarbonize or to defossilize. This is something as well very well known, and that's why all of us are here today and working in several ways to try to work in improving this air transport sustainability. There is a clear roadmap set to net zero emissions, and this roadmap is pretty ambitious. So the objectives are very clear. I think all the member states and as well other non-European countries as UK are working on this direction. And as well, we have the refuel aviation mandate, and this is a clear as well game changer. So it sets some very ambitious targets from 2025 to 2050. And as you know, it is compulsory to mix some sustainable aviation fuel with traditional kerosene. And the percentage of synthetic aviation fuels is increasing from 1.2% to 35% in 2015. The other share is going to be bio-based sustainable aviation fuels, and this mandate already put a lot of pressure in everyone in the aviation value chain, and as well in the producers of SAF companies, in the scientific community as well. So I'm involved in several forums, and everyone is working hard and very focused on meeting these ambitious targets. Refuel aviation mandate can be a great opportunity if we can really, let's say, capitalize it and use it as a way to industrialize Europe, to create job opportunities in Europe, to use renewable resources that we are producing in Europe as well. So the idea should be how to be able to meet these targets by increasing competitiveness and as well local sovereignty in Europe. So that's the challenge as well. So how to do all of this using European resources and putting European growth in the center of all of this. The Alliance for the Sustainability of Air Transport in Spain is a quite new actor working in this playfield. It was set up in last year in 2023, and during 2024 we've been working in setting up mainly the foundations of the alliance. So we've been working this year in drafting the terms of reference, and these are the main objectives of the alliance, to try to support the development of and coordinate the approach to the necessary regulatory framework and public policies to developing measures that contribute to the decarbonization of aviation and to achieve the net zero emission aviation by 2050, to promote the investment and startup of sustainable aviation fuels, production plants in Spain, and to scale up the first plant to develop new technologies to mitigate the environmental impact of flight operations. And we are counting on any kind of sustainable aviation fuel, and to promote initiatives and regulatory framework that guarantee the circularity within the aviation sector as well. So we are not just looking to sustainable aviation fuels, we are looking at as well to operations, to circularity. I mean, this is like a kind of 360 view on the decarbonization of air transport. We would like to lead the process of decarbonization, boosting Spain's industrial capacity to offer zero net emission and zero emissions technologies. We aim as well to identify and optimize the strategic, geographical, economic, and international benefits linked to the implementation of these technologies in Spain, to accelerate the development and deployment of technologies that enable the commercial operation of zero-emission aircraft, the investment in R&D and public-private cooperation to lead the adaptation of regulations. They are coming very frequently on the circular economy, on waste generated in the aviation sector, and to make Spain a benchmark country in the development of new technologies in aviation. We really believe Spain can be a SAP hub, and we can lead this energy transition and decarbonization of air transport in Europe. These are the members of the governing board in the Alliance. And this is the executive committee that is working in managing the Alliance. In the Alliance currently there are 3 working groups working in parallel: the operations working group, the SAF working group, and the market and regulatory mechanisms working group. And the working group that is working more advanced, let's say, is the Sustainable Aviation Fuels working group that is drafting a white paper on SAF. In this year, we've been working, as I said before, in setting the foundations of the Alliance, mainly the terms of reference, and we've been introducing the Alliance in several events as this one, just to make sure everyone is involved, as we are going to start opening the adhesion processes at the beginning of 2025. This is everything that I have to introduce you today. So as next steps, we are going to present the SAF white paper draft by the Alliance members in the SAF group. We are going to continue expanding the Alliance with other business, academic, and social institutions. The first 3 months of 2025, we are going to be devoted to this. We are to implement the Alliance actions and communications plans, so the new website of the Alliance is coming as well. And we are going to establish collaboration and cooperation strategies with other existing initiatives, as the one you have in the UK. So our doors are absolutely open, and we are really willing to follow your path, because I think UK is now one of the most promising countries in policies and support to the SAF sector. So let's work together and make a great collaboration on SAF as well. Thank you so much. We are at your complete disposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margarita. Do we have any questions for Margarita? No? Okay, so thank you very much,
Thank
Margarita.
you.
Thank you very much for sharing what the association is doing. So now we're going to move into the next presentation, and sorry. And so I would like to introduce Javier Gil Barno, and he's the director of the Biomass Department in CENER, the Spanish National Center for Renewable Energies. Thank you very much.
¿Dónde está el equipo? ¿Allá?
Que a veces no funciona. A ver si ponerla. Hay que ir hacia adelante porque si necesitas algo, ahí.
¿Pero dónde apunto?
Pues a ver por qué.
¿Arriba? No, están ahí al fondo. Ah, vale. Paso por ahí. Bueno, I will start. Just thank you so much. I would like to thank you, the embassy, for the opportunity today to present our work here. As I represent CENER. CENER is a applied research center in Spain. It's the National Renewable Energy Center. We are located in the north of Spain, region of Navarra. Okay. We are a public funded research center. In our patronate, we have the regional government of Navarra. We have 3 ministries: energy, environment, science, and industry. And we are focused on, as I mentioned, applied research. And I would like to present today our work related with new pathways for SAF productions. Our focus is a little bit more in the future, in 10 years from now, okay? And we have, analyzing the challenge of SAF production, we have been thinking and starting 2 different projects to develop new technologies that we think we will be needed in 10 years, okay? And okay, that's what I'd like to say. It's already working on? No. Okay, here is, okay, already introduction. So, I will explain our work in new SAF production pathways for the future, okay? Okay, I will say, just a short introduction of our activities. We are working, now, this is, now, just a moment. Okay. No, that's okay. We are working in different fields, in developing technologies for different fields. One of the main fields is transport decarbonization, including, of course, aviation. We work in the production of advanced liquid biofuels, from always working with from residues, raw material residues, and bioresidues and residual biomass. Okay. We work also in industrial decarbonization. Through torrefied fuels, solid biofuels. These are used in high temperature processes for substitute solid fossil fuels like pet coke or coal. We are working also in bio-based products in 3 lines: biodegradable and biopolymers and biodegradable polymers. Bioaromatics from lignin, that could be a source of aromatics for SAF also, or SAF additive. and biostimulants and biofertilizers, different bioresource valorization for different applications, chemical recycling of plastic residues using the same technology we use for biomass, and also transformation of carbon dioxide or production of electrofuels or electroproducts from carbon dioxide and renewable hydrogen. Okay, we are not a typical research center. We have the capacity to work from the lab, but this is a center we have in a small town, Aoiz, in the north of Pamplona and the north of Navarra, close to the Pyrenees. We have 10,000 square meters, and most of the work is focused on what we call the Valley of Death. We work from TRL 5 to TRL 7, working on pilot and demo facilities for different technologies. You have here, just in the photo, different technologies. We always have the vision in order to any technology we think is worthy. When we have already completed all the work at the laboratory, we also always try to upscale, to pilot and demo scale. This is in our ADN, okay? This is what we do, and we do continuously. Okay, going to the subject. This is from IATA, and this is some list of challenges for different pathways for SAF production, okay? It's clear when everybody agrees that the main production pathway in the next years will be EFA production, EFA technology, okay? The main constraint related with EFA technology is the availability of waste fats and oils. There is expected to the potential of these raw materials probably will be completely used by the end of 2030, something in this time, in this year. And because of that, also the prices of the raw materials are increasing, and this makes the technology less competitive. All the next technological pathways that are already approved for HTM based on gasification, alcohol to jet, and electro power to liquid. The main issue is they are very intensive in capex. So this is a barrier from the point of view also of financing and from the point of view of deployment. And making intensive in capex, you have to work in large scale production. This means for large scale production, you need large amounts of biomass supply to just one production facility. This is also challenging for biomass. Biomass is low density raw material. Transportation is intensive both in cost and in carbon emissions. So it's important also the size, the scale of the facilities is also important in the deployment of technologies for biomass. So we need all the technologies we can make it profitable. Okay, I mean, not just one technology. We need all the technology we can use to fulfill the chance of 70% SAF substitution in 2050. Okay, so the main conclusion for us, we need alternative technologies. Our approach is we have been always working with sustainable raw materials, biomass raw materials with high potential. That means lignocellulosic residual biomass and bioresidues. Okay, the technology should be flexible in regard to with the feedstock flexible. Okay, we bet for a production model in which we can produce an intermediate densified product. Okay, that can be transformed afterwards, after transportation, in a central facility. And our approach is to produce drop-in products that can substitute waste, oils, and fats in EFA plants. So we are going to deploy quite a large number of EFA production facilities the next 10 years. So we will have problems related with the supply of feedstock to these facilities and the competition for the feedstock. Our approach is to try to produce feedstocks from lignocellulosic biomass and bioresidues that can be dropping, substituting waste oils and fats in EFA plants, okay? And the most important is to be competitive. That is the key, one of the keys, okay, for the future. So we are working in two technologies. The first one is microbial oil production from syngas or carbon dioxide, okay? It's a biological pathway. We transform through gasification lignocellulosic biomass or residues into syngas, or we can also use carbon dioxide with hydrogen with the same technology, or even syngas plus hydrogen. I will explain it. And through gas fermentation, technology similar to Lanzatech, produce a dropping product for feedstock. Microbial oil, from the compositional point of view, is exactly the same as a vegetable oil, but it's produced by microorganisms. Okay? And the second technology is hydrothermal liquefaction. In this case, we focus on feedstock with very high moisture content, usually bioresidues. For example, we have been working already from 6 years now with sewage sludge. From 2022, we have been working with BP in upscaling this technology, and we are continuing working. We have started 2 projects this year for black liquor and microalgae transformation into biocrude through this technology. And next year we are going to start with digestate from biomethane, from biogas production. Digestate, okay. Hydrothermal liquefaction is a technology that works in wet bases, in water, at high pressure, up to 350 bars, and high temperature up to 450 degrees centigrade. And what we produce is a biocrude that is not exactly like crude oil, but okay, it's more similar, lower than the original biomass, with much lower oxygen content than other technologies like pyrolysis oil. Okay, and okay, I will explain a little bit on each one. This is a scheme of the technological pathway from carbon dioxide or solid biomass through gasification to gas fermentation reactor. The system is similar to Lanzatech, but we work with different strains to produce a different product, intermediate product. And this intermediate product, afterwards in a conventional bioreactor, by aerobic fermentation, you can transform with a different strain in microbial oil, it's a lipid. Here you have a photo of the microbial oil and the acid the composition data, okay, of lipids. And okay, this product could be perfectly used in EFA plants to produce SAF and HVO. Advantages of this technology, okay? Could potentially CapEx and OpEx is reduced. It has been estimated that we can produce the microbial oil at 1.3 euro per liter. That probably in 10 years now could be quite competitive, because we have also working, which will be the market in 10 years, okay? Why it could be competitive? Because it's much tolerant than a conventional catalytic, synthetic catalytic processes like methanol or Fischer-Tropsch production to contaminants in the syngas, okay? So the gas cleaning is simplified just with a raw tar removal and basic scrubber. You can just remove all pollutants. For example, ammonia is a source of nitrogen for the strain. Okay, you don't have to remove ammonia, for example. So this is one of the points. The other point is it works at lower pressure and much lower temperature, so CapEx is reduced. And OpEx, because you have to reduce the consumption of the compressor for the process from the syngas. The technology, the strain converts both carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, then you don't need a Theosif process in order to adjust the hydrogen to carbon monoxide ratio. The biocatalyst cost is very, very low. What you pay is the licensing of the technology, but not the product, as said. If you have any problem, you have to substitute the catalyst, you just have to grow again the microorganisms in the reactor. And okay, since the capex is reduced, you can work at smaller scale. So, for example, 200 megawatts, that is a usual scale in biomass plants. And in the centralized system, 200 megawatts, the project is much more easily bankable. So, and you can deploy a number of projects, so you increase the learning curve, the industrial learning curve of the technology, because you, for example, for Fischer-Tropsch, you just can produce one plant in Spain, just because of the demand of raw material you need. In this case, you can have up to 10 plants probably, so you learn from one to another in the pathway. And last but not least, HVO produced, that always is produced as a co-product in EFA plants. In this case, the raw material is in the Annex 9A of the Renewable Energy Directive, so it's considered advanced biofuel, and it's much higher value, added value, regarding conventional HVO. Where we are? We are still at the lab, okay? We have been working in this technology for 1.5 years now. We are working on the development of strains for the process, both fermentation and the transformation of the intermediate product into microbial oil, okay? But we are using the same technology to produce also biomethane, both from carbon dioxide and from syngas. In this case, we started to work 6 years ago, and we are more advanced, and we have already developed the prototype of the bioreactor. Okay, you see on the right side, it's a prototype of the bioreactor for gas fermentation. It's already in operation in our facilities. Okay. The other technology is hydrothermal liquefaction. We changed completely the focus on different feedstocks. We are using feedstocks with high moisture content. For example, the examples are with up to 90 or more percentage of water. So this is impossible to be treated through gasification, because just the energy you need to dry is higher than the energy you are going to produce. So, you produce a biocrude that has a lower oxygen content than the original biomass, that is liquid and can be transported, has a density about 0.9, low heating value of 34 megajoules per kilo, so has much higher energy density, so it could be transportable, so you can produce, for example, in wastewater treatment plants, you treat the sewage sludge, you produce biocrude, and you transport it to a EFA plant. Okay, this is the concept. You produce also a small percentage of biochar that could be used as fuel, could be used also as biofertilizer, it could be also for carbon removal. That is important in the total carbon footprint of the fuel. And you produce a water fraction, okay, in the process with some small molecules, polar molecules from the process, and this could be treated through anaerobic digestion to produce biogas and biomethane. In this case, the advantage is that this is flexible. This technology could be used to any raw material. It's much better when you use it for high moisture content materials. Since you work in wet bases, you don't need to dry the raw material, so it's very competitive in these fractions in comparison with gasification. Biocrude has a lower oxygen content in the range of 15–20%. And you can optimize production process in order to get the right product distribution in terms of boiling point in the product. And you can reach, for example, up to 50–60% of the biocrude could be potentially transformed into SAF. And as I already mentioned, logistics are improved due to the energy density of the intermediate product of the biocrude. Okay, where we are in this case, for sewage sludge, we have already started a pilot production in collaboration with BP. Okay, and for the other feedstocks, we are still working on the lab. But we will move. This is, you can see here, we have a pilot plant that could consume between 20 and 100 liters per hour. Okay, and that's all. You have any question?
Only one question for my clarification. Thanks. Yes, in the last technology, you said that it was a quasi drop-in for half a process. Can you explain that? Quasi drop-in. The other one was drop-in.
There are issues related with miscibility and other issues, technical issues. It's not like as the microbial oil is a oil, vegetable oil, so it's perfectly. It's exactly the same that the raw materials that EFA production is the same, is using. In this case, it's not exactly the same. Okay, it's different from the compositional point of view. There are issues regarding miscibility and many other issues with in hydroprocessing. Okay, and for example, contaminants, nitrogen content, and so on. Regarding, it depends on the raw material you use and so on. It's very specific for each raw materials. For example, cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, protein, oils behave completely different in the process. So depending which raw material you are using, it could affect conditions you have to use and the product you produce. But at the end, it's not, okay, there are some work-related research work we are working on in order to make it compatible with the FA process.
Okay, but at the end, the product, thinking about the aircraft, the aircraft and the SAF is a dropping product.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. The product is a
dropping product.
The end, the SAF is a FA product.
Okay.
And with the boiling point distribution according to the boiling point distribution solid biocrude. In this case, probably you cannot substitute 100% of the process, FA process, with the biocrude. But if you substitute an important percentage, I think it's valuable.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if I may, thank you for this quite technical presentation. So you highlighted that CENER, compared with other research centers, bears in mind the scalability. And scalability is exactly what we have concerns at Transport and Environment compared of the biocrude or the microbial oil production compared to synthetic fuel production. How do you see this? How do they behave in terms of scalability? The biocrudes.
In this case, there are two issues regarding the scalability of synthetic SAF production. One is that in Europe you need a source of biogenic carbon dioxide. Should be biogenic. So this is a limiting factor because you have to find the right place with the availability of this stream in order to be in the scale you need, regarding that the scale is defined by the economics, okay? And the other important factor is the cost that is driving mainly for the hydrogen production cost. So the question is, you need the technology is also a question usually works at high scale, large scale. Okay, Fischer-Tropsch always are big, capex intensive, so big plants usually. So you need a large source of carbon dioxide, and you need hydrogen in a competitive cost. So. And the same applies if you for biomass, you use the same pathways, you use Fischer-Tropsch and so on. Is that you have the same issue regarding the scale you need in the industrial scale. Okay.
Good morning, this is Juan Hermida from Senasa. Thanks very much for the invitation and thanks very much for the presentation. The question is quite straightforward. Do you think by 2030 we'll have any technology / feedstock ready to go? Because at this very stage...
This is a question that you have to make to the next panel.
Okay. Okay.
Because it's, okay, the risk is high, okay. Scaling new technologies to industrial, the risk is very high. So it is a problem. Bankability is really a problem. We have mandates, so we are obliged to produce some amount. So we have to set up the new plants to produce. They are already being done. But new technologies is a high and important risk, technical, that is also financial. So I don't have the
okay, you don't have the answer.
Well, no.
Okay.
But probably it's a good question for the next panel.
Okay, I will ask. Anyway, in the case is open the subject, you know, we are competing with feedstock with another transport. We are working also with maritime, you know, and that will be a challenge for the sector, you know, as we can choose another thing to decarbonize, you know, the new technologies we are talking about, small aeroplanes and all of that. But for commercial aviation, SAF, it is, you know, the only thing that we have. But the feedstock, probably not at this stage, but in 3, 4, 5 years, we'll see how, you know, scale up, you know, with refuel. We also have CORSIA that other countries will start, you know, using the same feedstock. So I will ask in the next panel. Thank you very much.
Even from the technical point of view, if you produce SAF, you are going to produce other fractions that could be used in heavy road transport or in maritime. Okay? For example, in FA pathway, HVO. So you are always to produce a percentage of HVO. So you have complementarity in this case, but okay, we cannot produce all the demand to decarbonize the transport through biomass. We need power to liquids, electrofuels, in the future, and we need electrification of the light transport. We cannot afford everything just with biomass.
Regarding HTL technology,
sorry.
Regarding capex, you were not mentioning this compared to alcohol to jet.
It's not low.
Yeah, because you were talking about a machine of 450 degrees and 350 bar.
The capex is not low. You need also the scale is important also. In this case, you are working with residues, and this time you have to go to see who is going to pay for the treatment of the residue, because this is like, you take, for example, sewage sludge. Now, citizens are paying for the treatment of the sewage sludge. Okay? So we have to see who is going to pay for the residue. If the cost of the residue is zero, then it could be much competitive. This is an important factor in HCL. Okay?
Just for I'm more technical than I like a lot of technical stuff. But what you are running right now in your pilots, it's pumps and a reactor?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have, you need a slurry to be pumpable to high pressure. That's from the point of view.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to have to stop. Obviously, Javier, there's a lot of interest from your presentation, but we're going to stop for 5 minutes. We're almost on time, but 5 minutes for break. Restrooms are on the right side, and then we'll come back with a presentation from the director, Chris Lewis, from the UK SAF Clearinghouse. Okay, so 5 minutes. Gracias.
Hello? See? If everyone could come and sit back down in your seats, that'd be great, thank you. Si podéis sentaros. Okay, thanks everyone. We're running a little bit behind time, but we've now got a presentation by Professor Chris Lewis, who's the director of the UK SAF Clearinghouse. He's presenting from Sheffield, so hopefully the technology will work, and he'll be on now.
Testing 1,
Yes?
2, 3. Yes, yes. Hello, everybody. Firstly, thank you for inviting me, the British Embassy inviting me to this important occasion. I'm Chris Lewis, I'm the director of the UK SAF Clearinghouse. And also this presentation is made by myself and Matt G, who's the program manager. We started in April 23, and we've done a tremendous amount of work to I'm going to talk through it very quickly. I'm aware of the time, so I've only got 15 minutes, but I would say there is quite a comprehensive website for you to look at, and we're always here to talk to. Apologies for not being there in person, but hopefully this is all working okay and the IT is working. So very briefly, the Clearinghouse consists of Sheffield University, although we're a separate little business unit within the university, and we've also got Ricardo, who's a contractor to us, helping us with a lot of the other areas, including Ricardo done excellent work on producing a very informative and helpful website. So going to the next slide. So what is the Clearinghouse? It's funded by the Department for Transport, and it's part of it was created before the mandate came into force. But of course, the UK recently signed for the mandate of 2% by 2025 and 10% by 2030, which are quite challenging figures. But part of the requirement and part of the whole industry is the technical assistance that the industry needs. Okay, so the SAF Clearinghouse plays a key role in this government ambition by being, we don't produce any fuel or anything, and we don't make specifications, but we're helping people negotiate the industry and understand how, what are the requirements and how to take it on and engage. And I will talk about that in a bit more detail. But, our ambition is to be, like other countries, to have be a key player in the industry. So we're supporting SAF producers. Importantly, we're supporting them right from the start at the early development or idea stage, or even, business development through evaluation and qualification if needed. But also we're talking to people who are new to the industry, but making established products and doing due diligence work. So one of the key things of the UK SAF clearinghouse is that, of course, you know, as it's been mentioned in previous presentations I've been watching on YouTube, you know, it's quite a high cost and risk. So we're doing our part in reducing that cost and risk. So I'm going to talk about some of the things we're doing. So really, there's a lot of information out there in different places. There's a lot of actors and groups out there. So we, as the clearinghouse, try and bring that together for new entrants and put it all together and sort of help them through those early stages. So we're providing advice and guidance on grants, and I'll talk about the grants that the Department for Transport are providing later. Talking about test facilities, guidance on the evaluation process, and it's already been quoted that they mainly sit at ASTM, but the defence standards in the UK are also a key part of that. So generally providing you know, that information and help, and also acting as a forum for people in the UK SAF industry to come together and cooperate. We're interested in people right from, there's a fuel readiness level chart, which is a bit like a technology readiness level. So it's right from, if you like, zero for people who've got an idea or are working in a laboratory, right through to the development, early production, into then full production, you know, having done it at pilot scale, and then, you know, provision into service. The clearinghouse in the UK is structured to provide information to producers free at the point of use. There was, but we're working with the Department for Transport for future funding and activity. Subject to key eligibility criteria, there is funding available from the UK Department for Transport to do analytical work. But that's just part of the Department for Transport support to the SAF industry, because there is a lot of funding going into other areas like the AFF funding, where they're actually funding people to develop the technology and scale it up. So, you know, again, this is just one strand of supporting the industry. And I should say at this point, it's important to note that whilst we're called the UK SAF Clearinghouse, we recognise that whilst we have a sort of bias towards helping the UK, this is an international and global industry. So we're working in cooperation and certainly not in isolation. And that brings me to the last point, that there are actually 3 clearinghouses now. The one in the US that's been running for some years, and the EU clearinghouse that's now well established. And we're working in cooperation with them, because one of the key things is to try and make the industry easy to deal with and efficient. And when we're saying there's one work stream per product, because, you know, people are busy, we don't want multiple streams of work, and we cooperate and mix and match. So there's not, it's cooperation, it's not competition. Very briefly, because I know this is not a technical presentation, and, you know, we're short of time, but it's just worth talking people through what the clearinghouse does for the various stages of people's SAF development. And one of the things is that in the early stages, there is pre-screening work. So that's looking at very small quantities in early development, even at lab scale, you know, sometimes even a few milliliters, up to sort of slightly larger scale. And that's part of the risk and mitigation, is to help people in those early stages to develop and refine and improve their product. Part of that is the fact that in this case, they can reiterate, they can look at what the possibilities are, whether they've got typically we're looking at helping people saying, well, there are already 8 different types of processes that are allowed within jet fuel SAF blends. They may have something that's close to that, or they may have something that's a long way away, but could be optimized to bring into you know, an existing annex. Or they've got a completely new process and product, and they need to look at the ASTM process to you know, evaluate and qualify. So we can help them at that very early stage to understand what they're trying to do. So the pre-screening process, I call it a sandpit because they can sort of play in there and adjust things and decide what they're going to do and get a lot of information, even at very low quantities. If they get to ASTM process because they need a new annex, then that's very much a more rigorous and, to be honest, pass-fail, an expensive process. And I've put the process up there. I can't talk about it in detail, but there are various routes to get approval. And again, depending on your product, depending what route it is. And whilst there's a whole list of boxes there, it's just worth bearing in mind, you don't have to do everything in all of those boxes. It's a rational process. So we help people negotiate through that. I would say with it slightly with amount of pride that the UK SAF holds 9001 accreditation. We got that recently. So, you know, we're a recognised quality standard organisation. The clearinghouse, importantly, doesn't as such have any analytical facilities themselves. And this was part of the business case that, you know, the industry has probably all the parts needed to help new producers already. So there was not a point for recreating that just for clearinghouse activity. So we have a network of recognised test houses, you can see there, and we're adding to it as we speak. The two bottom ones, that's DLR and Washington State, they're primarily pre-screening experts. The others are experts and you know, industry recognised fuel testers. So when somebody comes along and asks, has some product and they want it testing, there is a competitive process where they can go to those suppliers to get all the testing costed up. And if there's funding available, then the DFT will help with the funding. The last point there, and it was mentioned in one of the previous presentations I was watching on YouTube, is a lot of the early developers, they focus on transforming something from a raw material into a sort of, might call it bio crude or intermediate. But there is a lot of cost and capital cost and difficulty of getting that product and then upgrading it to the point where you might think about blending it into jet fuel. So there's a gap there, which we recognized some time ago, and we are looking at having a range of facilities for potential producers where they can get the hydroprocessing and upgrading done to help them out in those early stages before they start investing a lot of money, time and effort into sort of creating something that you know is going to cost them a lot of money in case it doesn't quite work. So part of the expertise that we as the clearinghouse can bring is the clearinghouse advisory group. So the clearinghouse advisory group gives us independent oversight of the operations in the clearinghouse itself. And as you can see there, it's primarily as an oversight to how we're delivering to the industry and making sure we're value for money and providing the service that's required. But also across industry expertise that we could call on to just, if we have some very specialist questions or issues to look at, we can call on members of the advisory group individually to help us out there. So you can see, you know, against the background of just, you know, the clearinghouse itself, we've got, you know, this cross-industry assistance, again, to help people in the early stages of development and pilot scale and running up. So I'm just aware that there's a little bit of a delay as your slides are updating. Just the customer journey, as we call it, is just very briefly, is if people have meet the key eligibility criteria, as I say, we will talk to and advise anybody in terms of you know, SAF production and development. But when it comes to providing grants for testing, then there are some key criteria in that they have to have a UK footprint. They have to have a valid technical proposal. They have to have sustainability that obviously meets the mandates and other sustainability requirements, and their plans have got to be commercially sound. So stage one is just an informal, capture of the information about the companies, and stage two then gets into the real detail of when they're applying for funding. Then after stage two, once they're funded, they can go through testing, and we would help them interpret the results. It's worth noting that unlike other programs that governments run, this is a sort of ongoing open application on a case-by-case basis. It's not like a project where the funding comes out and people compete. This is an ongoing. And at any stage, if somebody completes a stage, moves forward, does some testing, and it all looks good, but then they need to get to the next stage of readiness level, they can come back for more funding. So from that, just very briefly, where are we in terms of engagement with producers? So at the moment, and I say since April 23, we've engaged with the UK industry and people outside the UK but have a UK interest. We've got quite a lot of people on the books who we've spoken to. We have at least 55 people who've spoken to us that we've captured from various forums. We've had stage one, we've got 2 stage 2 applications who are now going through actual testing, which is interesting. We've got stage 1 applications, we've got 7, but you can see down at the bottom, we've talked to 55 different entities and companies who are interested in looking at SAF and are at the early stages of assessing, their business case and their proposals. So the key message there is that the SAF market is very young in terms of scaling up, but we're catching people and hopefully helping them in the earlier stages so that they don't hit dead ends or have technical problems later on. So that's very briefly the sort of engagement that we're doing. We also we operate, fuel is a global commodity and it has to operate as an international group. So we engage with the OEMs, that's the engine and airframe manufacturers and hardware manufacturers on a regular basis. And, we're trying to help them with the challenges of the number of products that are coming along. With full membership of ASTM, those are the key committees that have the specifications that cover the SAF blend stocks and SAF blends. And also, of course, the AFC Exco that own the defence standards in the UK as well. So we are engaged with them as well. So if you like, that helps us be up to date and understand what's going on, understand what the key issues are. And so we can help these companies engage with the industry in a very positive way, use the right language, timing of presentations to the industry is key, not too early that you haven't got a good story, not too late that people get a bit worried that you've suddenly appeared on the scene making aviation fuel. And as I said before, I come back to this key thing that we are coordinating with the US and UK EU clearing houses. And we're also looking at test method standardization program. There are some of the test methods on the more esoteric tests for new products that leave something to be desired. So we're working on that to try and improve and help the industry as a whole. So that was a very, very brief overview. As I say, we have a website that Ricardo has produced that's very informative. We are available to contact. People can talk to us. That's what we're here for. And there's a QR code on there which I think works. I noticed, sorry, there's a delay. There we are. So sorry, it's very rushed, but there that's where we are at the moment. We're talking to the DFT to carry on in the future. So I'll thank you for your time and attention. And if we can do this, any questions now? But anyway, if you Google UK SAF Clearinghouse, you'll come up with the links and you can talk to us. So I'll pass you back to the host.
Time for questions, but obviously you've got the email address and we'll hopefully share the slides afterwards because I think there was quite a lot of useful information in that. So now we'll move straight to the panel session. So if I could welcome Carlos Garcia, who's the Director of Transport and Infrastructure at KPMG, and the fellow panelists. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so first of all, a quick thanks to the British Embassy for having us at KPMG here to moderate this key discussion around sustainability and SAF fuel transformation on the sector. We will start by introducing our panel. So we have David Ohana, Director of Supply Chain for the Mediterranean at BP. Ignacio Bilbao, VP Fuel Procurement for hubs and SAF at IAG. Jordi Castro, Sustainable Fuels Strategy Director for Solaric. Carlos Diaz, Senior Manager of Renewable Fuels Business Development at Repsol. And Álvaro Macarro, Sustainable Aviation at Moeve. So we will ask a few questions to our panel that we reckon are key elements to understand from this transformation wave. So first of all, this one is for Repsol, Solaric, and IAG. We would like to take your view on how do you see the SAF market for these first years of mandate progressing. What's your view on that?
Yes? Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the British Embassy for invite us and to share with you our vision and our experience with renewable fuels in aviation sector. Well, I think that for the coming years, it's clear that the demand is going to be covered by a single route, that is the FR route, that consists mainly in the hydrogenation of lipid residues. This is a very well-known technology, well-established in the industry, at industrial scale. So, in that sense, we were pioneers in Iberian Peninsula with the production of the first batches of co-processing SAF in our existing unit in the refineries. Co-processing means that we are able to produce at the same time, in the same unit, the renewable fuel for aviation and the conventional fuel. And well, currently we have 3 of our 5 refineries in Spain have the capacity to produce, and we are producing and putting on the market this SAF. Well, this year we have started also our new plant in Cartagena that has been an investment of 250 million euros of investment to process around 300,000 tons of residues, mainly used cooking oil, animal fats, and some residues from the agro-food industry. And we are able to produce and to put on the market around 200,000 tons of SAF. So for me, it's clear that in the coming years, the FR route is going to be the route that we are going to use to cover the demand. The key question is what is going to happen from 2030? Because in that year, we have the first eSAF mandate that this involves different types of technologies with not enough mature today. It implies other level of investment. To give you an idea, when we talk about FR route, we are talking about hundreds million euros. When we talk about eSAF, we are talking about billions euros of investment. If you take into account that you have to invest in and in producing the green hydrogen and the combination of the hydrogen with the CO2. So different levels of investment and different levels of risk that we have. So we have to be able, as society and as industry, to be able to reduce the risk and the maturity of this type of technologies.
Thank you. So we shall continue by Solaric.
Good morning to everybody. I would like to thank first the UK Embassy for inviting Solaric to this event. And I agree with Repsol that the first years of the mandate will be dominated by the HEFA SAF production. Is the only one that is produced currently. But we need to see how the regulation and the policies get established in the next years, because we need to remind that this is not a natural market-driven transition, but it is a policy-driven transition. So for us, it's really important, the policies, and for example, Solaric really affected, but by the regulation. And I would like to. Hola. Hola. I don't know what happened.
Is it perhaps?
Yes. Hola. Yes. Okay. So I would like to explain the main difference between the European mandate and the UK mandate that makes it's affecting, for example, to Solaric how to commercialize its product. Probably I will need to explain what is doing Solaric in the SAF space. Solaric is developing a portfolio of projects to produce SAF. We have 5 projects currently in Spain, aiming to produce 500,000 of tons per year. And we are mixing, we are going to mix gas to liquid and a power to liquid path. That's because Solaric is also developing more than 30 biomethane plants in Spain, and we're going to use this biomethane and the biogenic CO2 coming from these plants to produce bio-SAF. Because of using this biomethane, which is produced by from 50 to 70% from animal manure, the carbon footprint of this bio-SAF is going to be really low. It's going to be even better than the eSAF1. It's going to be actually a negative value. And we find that, for example, the European regulation, the RefuelEU Aviation, doesn't recognize this kind of bio-SAF beyond the minimum requirement of the 65% of GHG emissions that has to be complied in order to be eligible. But there is no further recognition beyond that minimum, apart from the SAF quota for the eSAF. But instead, in the UK regulation, the UK mandate, it's a carbon intensity-based mandate. That means, for example, that the better the carbon footprint of the SAF to be used, the lower the need or the amount needed to meet the obligations of the mandate. Okay? So, for example, we are doing some preliminary calculations, and for a bio-SAF having a CA factor in the UK 2 times the one of the HEFA SAF, the consumer under the UK mandate will need to purchase half the amount of SAF compared to a situation in which they will be purchasing HEFA SAF. So because of that, we are really seriously analyzing the possibility of exporting SAF to the UK, from Spain to the UK. We are thinking on dedicating 1 or 2 projects for the UK market because of this difference in the policy, in the regulation. Okay? So for that, we find really interesting this bilateral agreement of UK with Spain, because we probably could take advantage of it to accelerate these projects.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So it might sound a bit redundant, but I'd like to thank the British Embassy for the invite. We are, as IAG, for those that don't know the brand, we are the parent company for British Airways and Iberia, Vueling and Aer Lingus. So, and now Level just became an independent AOC holder. So yeah, we've got a big presence both in the EU and in the UK, so it's great to be here. To your question on the market, I think we agree with Carlos and with Jordi. I'd like to point out that the market will be oversupplied for some time, but the risk here is with feedstocks. So managing feedstocks effectively and having the bandwidth to produce HEFA at a competitive cost will be key.
Well, thank you very much for those. So the next one is for IAG. As an airline with a strong presence both in the UK and the EU, what do you think is needed to boost SAF production and development throughout the two countries to move it forward, to boost it?
Well, we're approaching the Christmas period, so it's sort of the three wise men list that all children do for the presents. So, of course, we operate between two different jurisdictions with two different. So roughly, we've got a third of our volume, our consumption in each of in the UK, a third of our volume in the EU, and then another third overseas, mainly in the US. So what we really like about the UK policy is the fact of having an advanced the AFF, which is something we are probably missing in the EU because, of course, we've got the Innovation Fund, but it's very hard to access. So there will always be projects with a lower cost of CO2 abatement than SAF, as aviation is a very hard to abate industry, and we believe that since we are paying for those emissions under the ETS scheme, we should be getting a dedicated fund to produce SAF, because it's true that the market, I was with a more positive message in the previous question, because you were asking about the short term. So I'm bullish about the short term, and I'm pretty sure we will get to where we need to be in terms of supply of SAF. That said, it's very worrying that we are in 2025, we're approaching 2025, and there hasn't been a single SAF project awarded with the Innovation Fund, because we need to reach FID, the sooner the better, but we are, and talking to experts in the industry and more in the industrial sector of producing SAF, we're seeing that we're late. We're late to meet the PTL mandate, we're late to meet the synthetic fuels mandate, and I'm sorry, and we need to start closing projects now in order to meet the mandate in 2030. And then, if we look at the EU, so what would we ask the UK to do? I think mainly it's about feedstocks. So the UK is not currently looking at cover crops as an eligible feedstock, which is something we see has a huge potential in the HEFA sector. I know there's a cap to HEFA in the UK, which there isn't as of today in the EU, but yeah, we need to have more feedstocks available, because this is the clear bottleneck. So the industrial production facilities exist, and we've got a good example here in Spain with both Cepsa, Repsol, and then potentially BP producing HEFA. We will be a net exporter of HEFA, and we've got big amounts of land, some of them with very low yield, so it's cover crops, and then in addition to that, it's those crops grown in severely degraded land, which there is a lot in Spain. So we see that as an opportunity for both for the UK and the EU. And then there's a long list of things that we like about both mandates, trading certificates, the THC reductions-based mandate instead of a volume mandated mandate. But yeah, I'm conscious of time, so I'll just...
Many thanks. Yeah, those are definitely the key ones, and we could extend a lot on this interesting topic. So thanks for that. So the next one is for David at BP and Alvaro at Moeve. So what are your companies doing to support SAF development, and where do you see the biggest opportunities across Spain and the UK to be a SAF leader worldwide?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to everybody, and thank you for organizing the event and for inviting me. So maybe starting one word on BP and aviation. So we define ourselves as a jet and SAF global provider and integrator. So that means, on one hand, origination, production, supply and trading. On the other hand, we have our global aviation business, RVP, that provides a wide range of services to the industry with quite a large presence on the UK and the Spanish market. So tackling the SAF production, I think the first enabler is obviously developing the demand and the voluntary demand. And back in 2008, I remember that BP, we participated to the supply of the first commercial flight with SAF. It was 16 years ago. I think in 16 years, we made some progress in terms of aviation sustainability and also in positioning Spain as a place of reference. So now what do we do? So we partner with international commercial airline. I think AAG, it's a great example of partnering in the UK and Spain globally. But we also work with general aviation. We work with airports and with OEMs. And so what do we do? So first we try to develop logistics to connect the production facilities with the airports. We also try to build offer optionality around SAF mandates, around sustainability schemes. And we work on the technical side, so on SAF quality and performance. So all that to try to trigger the demand. And then in the second step, regarding production, I think what we consider as a priority is to maximize all the pathways that are the most cost effective, because we believe that SAF and any low carbon energy needs to be affordable. And if we take the example of the Castellón refinery that we have in the region, our idea, quite aligned as well with what we heard from Repsol, is to scale up co-processing and in parallel to progress our HEFA plant project. So co-processing, Castellón has been growing co-processing since 2016. We achieved the SAF ISCC Corsia certification in 2021. And now the idea is to triplicate investment and volume production of CoproSAF throughout the rest of the decade. Obviously, it would be ideal to unlock the CoproSAF limitation into jets, right now 5%, ideally to 30%. So we would unlock even further investment in the refinery kits. So that's on Copro. And regarding HEFA, we have announced a project to build a plant of 500,000 tons this decade, mostly focused on SAF. And here, as Ignacio said earlier, the key is feedstocks, access to feedstocks, sustainable feedstocks at scale. And actually, in that regard, we welcome very much the inclusion of novel feedstocks like intermediate or cover crops into the Annex 9 in Europe. And actually, we are getting more and more active at securing long-term offtake agreements, market development agreements in that field. We also believe there is huge opportunities in Spain, but also in the UK, like the winter crops, for instance. And yeah, the idea of extending the basis of feedstock is to reduce the dependency towards only a few feedstocks like UCO. We also actually work on other ideas like Sener mentioned earlier, Javier, the HTL project we have. So, yeah, in terms of the connection with the UK, we recognize there is a HEFA cap, but we also welcome the fact that this cap will be kept under review, depending on how the advanced SAF will land into the market. In terms of advanced SAF, quickly I would say that, of course, eSAF is the solution for the long term, but right now we do see uncertainty around investment, and we will monitor that. We'll monitor, for instance, the scheme in the UK, and we'd like to proactively participate to landing the right design, but it's complex. Overall, I would say that if we want to be successful to progress the SAF production between Spain and the UK, we need all the routes, each of them progressing at its own pace, and we also need a holistic approach and try not to limit any option.
Excellent, thank you. Alvaro.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation and for allowing us to share Moeve's view on SAF. I would like to point three messages, three ideas. First one, we really think from Moeve's perspective that Spain has the possibility and I would say the need to be one of the main SAF producers countries in Europe. We do have an important tourism industry, weighing around 12% of GDP. 80% of those visitors come by plane. 6 of our airports are among the top 30 in Europe. So, and in addition to that, Spain still in 2024 is the first destination and preferred destination for UK travelers. So we really need to decarbonize aviation sector in order to promote a sustainable tourism here in Spain, to promote our main industry. In addition to that, we've had access to biomass. We do have renewable energy at cheap cost. We also have the production capacity, the fuel production capacity, expertise, and knowledge. Also, we have a very efficient logistic infrastructure, taking into consideration the Exolum pipeline. So at the end, we have everything to be one of the leaders in Europe. We think it's industry, a new industry that will allow us to create and generate wealth and social and economic progress, also in the rural areas. That's first message. Second message is a positive message. We have to be super happy. I mean, Spain is ready. The mandate is starting in 15 days, January 1st, and the whole industry and the value chain has done the homework, okay? And that's something to be happy about. From Moeve's perspective, we have been producing SAF through co-process since last second semester in 2022, allowing and putting SAF into the market for early movers, for early adopters. In February 2024, we started the construction of a standalone plan of a new facility, HEFA technology, with a total production capacity of 500,000 metric tons, which is going to be the largest in South Europe. It will be operating in 2026, and it's with an investment of 1.2 billion euro. So we're ready, and we're happy to be part of the project. And I would say third message, third idea. This is just the starting point. I mean, there's no room for complacency. We cannot stop here. We have important targets in 2030, 6%, in 2035, 20%. And as my colleagues have said here, only with HEFA production is not going to be enough. Feedstock is a limitation, lipids are limited. So we need to develop the new technologies, alcohol-to-jet, Fischer-Tropsch, eSAF. So far, the private sector has been the only one putting the money and doing by itself. And if we want to develop new technologies, if we want to get commercial scalability for those new technologies, we're going to need incentives and public support.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. That's really convenient because it leads us to the next question. We wanted to ask to Solaris and Moeve. So and anyone else who wants to come in within the panel, how can we incentivize each sector and each element of the supply chain to collaborate at all levels, all in a way from sourcing raw materials to airlines, etc.? So what's your view from Solaric on that?
Sí. Well, this sustainable fuels market, it's quite new. The technology is non-mature, it's still being developed. There are a lot of uncertainties, so I think it's really convenient to collaborate between all the stakeholders because it's difficult for one company itself to know everything because it's new. It's not. Some questions have no answer at this moment. And for example, we are doing some knowledge sharing with some of the stakeholders, and we are trying to confirm what the other one is thinking, what the other one is investigating, and because it's difficult, the technology is being developed, it's still too expensive, and I think it's really convenient, this collaboration between companies.
Yeah, fully agree with Jordi. We need, and it has been mentioned many times during the session, we need a legal framework is stable, okay, to align everyone for the project, suppliers, fuel producers, off-takers, everybody. So that's one idea. And the second one that I would like to mention is that we need to be really to have an agnostic approach on technologies, okay? As I always say, if we can substitute one fossil molecule for a green molecule, we're doing our job. We're moving forward and we are performing. So since HEFA technology is today the only realistic way to do it, we need to also consider, for example, co-processing. We have a lot of co-processing capacity in Europe, and that has to be considered because as much availability we put into the market, we will have more liquidity in those markets and lower cost. And I think all technologies have to be taken into consideration, above all during the short term, okay, to ramp up production and to have a lower cost.
Fantastic. And just to close this conversation, this one is for David at BP and Carlos at Repsol. How is, if in any way, the SAP deployment plan towards 2050 impacting and transforming your business models?
Yeah, thank you. So in 2020, we announced our mission to transition from being an international oil company to an integrated energy company. And biofuels and SAF is one of our 5 key transition engines to decarbonize the sectors that are more difficult to electrify. So SAF will be vital in terms of demand. I mean, let's think the growth from right now, hundreds of thousands of tons to maybe hundreds of millions of tons in 2050. So we believe that SAF production will enable the transition of our refineries towards sustainable integrated energy hubs. So how does it work? So first, SAF production connects with, as we said, bio and sustainable feedstock origination and pretreatment to serve the GoPro units and the HEFA plants. On top of that, SAF production connects with our hydrogen strategy and our ability to transition from gray to green hydrogen in order to decarbonize Scope 1 and 2 in our refineries. SAF production also connects with upgrading our storage and logistics facilities to upgrade towards more blending centers, supply, exporting, for instance, as we said, from Spain to the UK. And SAF production connects very well with what Alvaro covered before, all the strengths of Spain as a country. the geography, the healthy refinery environment, aviation and tourism, local feedstocks, and sun and renewable energy. So there's great potential here. Now these projects are not free of challenges. As it has been said, these projects require like hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and euros and pounds also. And actually in an environment where the capital cost is increasing because of the global uncertainty. So partnerships will be required, very important, to share the capabilities, share the investment and the risk. And my last point would be on regulation. Fundamental to have a long-term regulation that integrates the different SAF production paths that we mentioned, CoPro, HEFA, e-fuel, with green hydrogen, with the production of renewable energy and electricity to lower the risk on investment, hence to foster and focus more on maximizing R&D and also feedstock diversification and also the upgrade of the supply chains to, in the end, basically reach the goal for each of us, which is to lower the cost of SAF and then maximize the penetration.
Excellent, thank you. And how about Repsol, Carlos? How is...
Well, very, very similar to BP. Well, we were in 2019, we were the first oil and gas company to make the public their commitment to be a net zero emission company in 2050. So think about the magnitude of this challenge that is for a company which is based, which business case is based mainly in the producing and marketing hydrocarbons. So that means that we have to progressively phase out the use of petroleum as feedstock, and we have to increase the quantity of feedstock, of renewable feedstocks with the lowest carbon footprint. So that means that we have to go for residues mainly, but this is not enough to have a net zero emission company in 2050. We have to change the way of which we feed with energy our sites. We have to increase the renewable mix of the energy that we use to reduce the carbon footprint of our process. And we need also to produce hydrogen in a different way. We need to produce green hydrogen, which means very, very high investment in the new electrolyzers. And we also need the carbon capture. The combination of all three that levels will allow us to achieve the objective. We recently have updated our strategic plan of the company, and in this new strategy, we have commit between 2 and 3 billion euros in the next 2 years to increase our capacity of producing low carbon fuels, including SAF, and fully agree with David about the need to give confidence to the investors with a more stable and clear regulatory framework, and also support to find a gap if we want to be the early movers in Spain. I think we have not too much time, so
I think if not any other one conclusion is a lot of investment in the short term, probably for mid and long term benefits. So that's definitely a SWIFT. So thank you very much all the panelists for their insights. Have we got time for a quick Q&A? No Q&A. So perhaps afterwards we can just conversate. So thank you very much.